The V10 Beamer is gone. It was such an awesome car, but it was time for a change. And what I've bought is quite a change. Let me give you some clues. We've dropped 7 cylinders, we've dropped over 4 litres of displacement, but it is still rear wheel drive and manual. Some of you may have looked at the thumbnail, title and heard those clues, and you will know exactly what this car is. Let me go fetch it. Welcome everyone to a new DRIVETRIBE project car, a 1994 Suzuki Cappuccino. Let me give you the rundown on this thing. It is a front mid-engined manual rear-wheel drive double wishbone multi-link suspension wielding Japanese sports car. What a package! Generally, I'm not one for naming cars, but there's something about this thing that's got under my skin that I think warrants one. So I've decided to call him Yuki. 1, because it rhymes with Suzuki. 2, because I like everything Red Bull, which means I'm a fan of the AlphaTauri F1 team, and one of my favourite racing drivers is Yuki Tsunoda. And 3, I simply think he looks like a Yuki. Say hello to Yuki. Yuki. He is truly tiny. In case you don't know, a Suzuki Cappuccino is a Japanese K car, a sector of the car industry where cars had to be tiny and be powered by equally tiny engines, no more than 660 cc's, which generally worked out at 3 cylinders. The Japanese government made it cheaper and easier for manufacturers to make K cars, which translated from Japanese literally means light motor vehicle. These cars were initially made very cheaply from recycled motorcycle parts and presented tax benefits both for companies and consumers. These micro cars also had their own gentleman's agreement, like our favourite Japanese performance cars from the 1990s. The big boys had a 280 horsepower limit, the K car limit 64 metric horsepower. Yes, Yuki puts out 60, well actually in our money the Cappuccino puts out 63 proper horsepower. But yeah, that's not much more than Oliver. So, the new car on the channel has a 0.6 litre triple. There might be some of you thinking I've completely lost the plot, but bear with me on this one. Let me explain why this car makes so much sense and why it's quite special. So, the engine is a 3-cylinder, but it has some help. It is a 3-cylinder turbo. Turbo! Hey! It's quite hard to see the turbo in the engine bay. It must be the size of a thimble, but the way it delivers its power is so interesting. It has a dollop of turbo lag, I think simply due to the lack of air flowing through it because everything's so small. But once you get through that turbo lag, you put your foot down and the little green boost light switches on the dash. It is not slow because it revs and revs and revs. The rev counter only starts to go red at 9,000 RPM. It gets quite red at 10,000, but it keeps going all the way around to 12,000 RPM. That will be aided by the fact that it's mostly motorcycle parts, but 12,000 RPM in a road car is pretty much unheard of, apart from in K cars. Yes, he only has 63 horsepower, but that is not the full story. You have to combine the factors of this car. K cars, fundamentally, because of their size, are very light. This Cappuccino only weighs 725 kilograms. You combine that with the torque of the turbocharger and the revs, the Suzuki Cappuccino is not slow. Yuki can shift. And that brings me on to the next great thing about the Cappuccino, which is its size. I live in Bath, which is quite an old school city with some quite tight streets. And this Suzuki just flies up them. It dances through town without a problem at all. In fact, it's been quite an interesting social experiment with other drivers, because they will see me in front of them go through a gap or a tight squeeze past the car, and they think, well, I've just seen a car go through there, I can do that too. And they really come a cropper. I've seen everything from Range Rovers all the way down to small city hatchbacks, which are still giant compared to this, absolutely bugger their alloys or have small scrapes because they thought they could fit through the same space as this. Another reason I've bought this car is that the world has changed recently. In our little microcosmic passion of cars, one of the main issues recently has been fuel prices. Through a combination of war and transportation issues and a whole load of other gubbins, that has been the thing that's hit us in the back pocket the most over the last couple of years. So, the aim with this car is to have as much fun as possible, as frugally as possible. You can rev it out to 9,000 RPM and the fuel gauge just doesn't go anywhere. It's amazing. You do that in the M5, you can visibly see it moving as you push the throttle down. But in this thing, it seems to sip fuel in comparison. The running costs of this versus the M5 will seem like buttons, but from what I've experienced, I don't think it's going to be any less fun. If anything, it might be more fun. Then there's the titan of the car industry, something that came along and dominated its niche ever since it came out, the Mazda MX-5.
Automobile of the Year, Automobile Magazine. One of the world's 5 best cars, Road and Track. Car of the Year, Modern Motor. The Dream is now available with automatic transmission.
Be it Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Toyota, Honda, MG, none of them have taken on the MX-5 and come out on top in the entry-level sports car market. And in that, we have a mission. Can we make the Suzuki Cappuccino the new go-to entry-level sports car? Can this be cheaper to run, more fun, and with a bit of work, faster than the King? We may be starting with a third of the engine displacement and dimensions that make the MX-5 look giant, but can this thing be a better car than an MX-5? Can we convince young drivers, like I imagine many of you watching this now, to be searching for these rather than some crusty driveway spec Mazda? Well, I've come up with a plan. To start with, we'll be upgrading the suspension and brakes along with the wheels and tyres to create a solid base for a quick car. Only then will we turn to either turning up the stock turbo or fully upgrading the turbo along with an ECU that will chat to the car and hopefully talk it into creating a bit more power. The number in my head is 100 horsepower on the nose. Hopefully that's not asking too much of that tiny engine, because I reckon that power hike combined with how light this car is should be enough to topple the Mazda. We are back at Japanese car specialist Torque GT to make this little cappuccino as quick as possible with some simple modifications. What are we starting with then? Well, Yuki has a 0.6 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine that puts out 63 horsepower. He has standard K-car suspension, standard K-car brakes, a standard airbox and exhaust. Everything is soft and tiny, and those aren't adjectives that are going to help us beat an MX-5. So the plan is coilovers from BC Racing, a brake upgrade from Tarox, an exhaust, air filter and spark plugs from HKS, a reprogrammed ECU from America that has Yuki stenciled on it. How cool is that? And then we're going to get some modern tyres on the car as well. Probably going to go with Bridgestone for those. Suzuki Cappuccinos normally suffer from serious rust issues, but I thought I had bought a good one because I paid a little bit more for it. But I'm afraid to say, Yuki's quite ill. The car's been here since 1994, so it's fair to say it would have obviously had some rust repair, but the sheer extent of it is like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, it's good that it's been done, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. Let's count the patches just down this one side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 just like MOT patches down just one side of the car, and the other side is almost the mirror image. As I say, it's solid. If I get my screwdriver out, it's all completely solid to the front. So in terms of MOT, it looks nasty, but it's fine. At the back, however, my screwdriver starts to disappear quite high up, and it's a bit flaky both sides. So currently, Yuki would not get through a UK MOT because these bits are far too close to the rear subframe mountings. Don't worry, he's not going to go in the bin. We are going to sort out these bits so that this car is road legal once again. Paul, we've got a whole load of kit to make this absolutely rapid.
Hopefully.
You said to me we should start with the exhaust. Shall we have a look at this and see what we're working with?
Yeah, sure. Let's get it unboxed. And
I mean, the one that went on Richard's Subaru from HKS was lovely, so I'm hoping this matches that.
I'm sure it'll be the same quality, won't it? There we go.
Ooh, it's got a cool coating on it. Okay. So back box, and then this goes...
Yeah, that'll be your front pipe from there to here, I'd have thought. Probably other way around.
Other way around.
Yeah, so that'll probably be there, look.
Okay.
Like that. And then this one obviously will go on that to there.
Okay, let's whack this rusty one out. This is by far the smallest airbox I've ever seen on a car. Tiny little filter in there. The amount of suck this will be producing is just... The HKS filter flew straight on, so we moved to the fancy new spark plugs. With everything back in place, we quickly whacked in an upgraded lambda sensor before I got deep into Yuki's footwell to extract the standard ECU. The new K-Sport ECU then simply screwed into place in the original housing before being plugged back in so that Yuki was ready to test his new bits. I've come through to the body shop because Torque have recently bought a new toy. Steve, you're messing about with it today.
Yes.
Dry ice blasting. So this is an NSX, and what, you've done half of the car?
We've done half of that, yeah, we've done half of that side, or no, we've done that side, and this side we've yet to do.
So this side is still British, and this side is, I mean, it
gleaming.
looks factory fresh.
Yeah, it's a cleaning machine. It's not a blaster, it's a cleaning machine. So basically, it doesn't damage anything. It just takes off all the old underseal, anything that isn't, you know, factory. so it won't damage it.
There's a slight differentiation because, I mean, this was, as you can see from this side, already quite a clean car.
Yes.
So it can't strip away like corrosion, like really nasty surface rust.
No, it doesn't do anything to the rust. It takes off anything flaky, anything alien, anything dirty.
Okay, well, I'll let you have another play. That side of the car is now going to look like this side very quickly.
It will do.
Okay, let's see it. It's an amazing process and one that would totally transform a project car underneath. Food for thought. So cool. With that, the K-Sport ECU is installed and we've been told it's plug and play. So, will Yuki start?
Try again.
Try again. Ignition. Come on, Yuki. You can do it. Oh.
Bit harder. Almost sounds like the ignition's advanced a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Try again.
It does sound different.
Try turning off and back on again.
Okay. No horrendous noises, but maybe not quite right. Maybe the ECU just needs to kind of think itself through.
Yeah, try again. Okay, we'll go with that.
Better.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We've just popped the bonnet to have a look and a listen, and Yuki's sounding so much more purposeful now. It's as if the ECU just had to think things through and get used to the car. But now, this Cappuccino now actually sounds like it has a turbo. Listen to that! I imagine the ignition timing means there's more exhaust gas coming through now, so it's creating more boost already. Yuki is ready for the dyno. I am very happy with today. A really productive session with this car. So from the top, we put a new exhaust on him, put some new spark plugs, new lambda sensor, new air filter, and then that new ECU. What a difference all of that has made, just immediately turning the car on. It sounds so different, and that turbo noise has got me very excited for what numbers this thing's going to be pushing on the dyno. It's all relative. He was 63 to start with. I kind of want 100 horsepower, but we'll just need to wait and see. I've just driven the Cappuccino down from Torque GT to this place, Engine Tuner in Plymouth. And in case you didn't see the last video, let me take you through some of the mods that have happened to Yuki. So, we got a whole load of stuff from HKS. We've got an air filter, spark plugs, and then an exhaust underneath. And then the main thing is we got a K-Sport ECU that is plugged straight in the glove box and hopefully should be giving Yuki a few more horsepower. He is already creating way more boost than he did. You can hear it. You couldn't really hear the turbo before, but now you get such a nice flutter. So he's already creating boost. The aim is 100 horsepower because, as I've said before, I reckon 100 horsepower plus how little this car weighs should be able to overcome an MX-5. You started with 63, can we get into triple figures? Let's see what Yuki's got. Martin, you're the technical manager here at Engine Tuner. We've done some initial runs, and that's simply with the ECU plugged in, doing what it's doing, and it said 70 horsepower.
Yes.
So I guess I assumed, I've come into it thinking the factory figure of 63, but a few have left the field.
Yes.
And so it was in the 50s. So let's say like a 17 horsepower gain. So percentage-wise, that's quite a lot.
It is.
Can you translate what the ECU so far has done with this engine?
It's really difficult to say because we didn't have factory figures on this dyno.
Sure.
So as far as the tuning goes, the mixture looks okay. We're questioning whether the ignition timing is exactly correct. It could be that it's a bit retarded. It physically sounds a bit retarded when you bring the engine up through the RPM range.
Okay, but
So
it's doing something.
It's doing something.
That's more
But
than
it's-
factory, right?
It
70
is.
horsepower.
It is. But it's difficult to tell why exactly at the moment because we haven't exactly looked at the map. I don't
Sure.
know what the ignition timing is over stock.
Okay.
But of course, we're gaining power. I think we're going to gain more with a fair bit of tuning.
So using your vast experience, what do you reckon we'll be able to
If we can find another 10, 15 horsepower, then I'll be quite happy as a starting point over where we're starting from now as opposed
Yes.
to where it started from factory.
Okay, so you're saying mid-80s then?
If we can get mid-80s out of it, I'll be much more happy.
Is my 100 horsepower far too optimistic?
I think that's very optimistic unless we're going to do something about the fact that the vehicle has no form of boost control on it at the moment other than the rating of the spring within the actuator.
Well, I still believe, but I'm an idiot. So,
Okay.
let's get computing. Let's see what it can do.
Absolutely.
I'm actually really happy with this so far. I'm used to doing dyno runs and seeing those lines incrementing upwards, and that's what's happening, but I guess it's just all to scale. I just need to slightly adjust the way I look at it. I'm used to, you know, our M5 and the Jag XKR, those lines, that increment normally means 20 horsepower, but on here, it can mean half a horsepower, but to scale, that's a good thing. So, we've come in, say this car started in the 50s, immediately with that ECU up to 70 and now up to 75. I'm going to slightly adjust my expectations now. I agree with Martin, anything in the 80s I think will be good, and I guess we'll just put stickier tyres on it to beat the Mazda. But yeah, 75 just now, let's get another 5 and then I think we can call that a success. Martin, a nice little increase there. What got us to 75 horsepower?
Okay, so we went really basic with it and just manually wound in just a touch of ignition advance by physically moving the distributor.
Okay.
Now we're going to get scientific about it. So we're going to move the distributor back where it was, and we're going to put a timing light on it.
Okay.
And then lock the ECU to a base timing figure so that we can check that the reference angle is actually correct before I start actually advancing the ignition map within the ECU. We need to know that if we're asking for 20 degrees, we're physically getting 20 degrees down at the timing mark. So.
Okay, well you sound like you know exactly what you're doing.
We've been there before. So,
So yeah, let's see it.
okay.
We're preparing for our final couple of runs now. Martin and Paul were just looking at the spark plugs to see how the car is burning, and they're burning really, really nicely, so they're happy with that. We've been incrementing the timing, advancing it bit by bit, degree by degree, and the horsepower gains have now just started to tail off. That last run we gained a horsepower, so we're probably not far away from finding that optimum figure, and then that'll be that. We've achieved our new goal of 80 horsepower. Let's hope just another couple of degrees we'll get that right into the 80s, and then that'll be our figure to take on the MX-5. I realise that without context, that number there seems quite small, but 85 horsepower is a 35% increase over the factory figure. And taking into account this is a 1994 car, that increase is probably in the 40% area. That is serious. If that was a 400 horsepower Subaru, like there's loads of them kicking around outside, that would be a massive increase. I am really proud of this little car in this dyno session, so let's get him back to Torque GT and make him even quicker through some suspension mods and some new brakes. Before we start any further work, today has been the first day that's been nice enough to get the roof off the Suzuki. So let me show you the 4 different cars that a Suzuki Cappuccino can be. Starting with a full convertible, Targa, a T-top, or the full hardtop, as if you needed further reasons that the Suzuki Cappuccino is the greatest car in the world. It was now time to unbox the fresh parts to go on Yuki in this episode, starting with a set of V1 coilovers from BC Racing. Tarox put brakes on our Jaguar XKR, and they've also sent through this upgrade for the Cappuccino. They are tiny. Look at them. Amazing. If you fancy a K car of your own, but you don't want one that's been rusting away in the UK for the last couple of decades, Torque GT can import you one like these things here. These are Honda S660s. So being Honda S cars, they're in the same family as the S2000, and 660 denotes that it's a K car, 660cc, 658 to be precise. So it's a 3-cylinder turbo, 63 horsepower, just like the Suzuki Cappuccino, but a bit more torque. I think it's in the sort of 70 foot-pounds-ish. I think they look like mini versions of the new Honda NSX. And these 3 here, they are already customer cars here at Torque, and they've got some really nice simple modifications, like this one's got BBS wheels, and this one here has got a nice Alcantara steering wheel. So these are manual, rear-wheel drive, rear mid-engined little sports cars. Tell me you wouldn't have a shed load of fun using one of these as a daily. I know I would, and you should probably buy one. Off come the old standard brakes and suspension, and on go the fresh upgrades from BC Racing and Tarox. Not only has Yuki gained some power, he will now handle and stop infinitely better. Especially now that the car sits on coilovers, we now have a level of adjustability to really hone the car to where it needs to be to beat the Mazda. And with that, Yuki is pretty much ready to have a crack at an MX-5. He will be getting some fresh tyres, and those nasty bits underneath will be welded up so that they're solid and safe, and that we can get the car back out on the road. The next time you see Yuki, he will be on a track ready to rock. This little car has been completely transformed. From stock, it's a soft, cute little package. But now, Yuki is genuinely quick in his own right. And he also makes noises like that. thanks to those BC Racing coilovers, the front end is now so darty. Before, the car used to roll into corners, which was really fun, but it was not fast. Now this car wants to hunt down an apex. The K-Sport ECU has upped the power from the 63 stock up to 85 horsepower, but I do have a confession. That day, when it read 85 horsepower on the dyno, we then took it back to Torque GT to replace the brakes. And we then found that the rear brakes were actually stuck on quite a bit. So they will have lowered that horsepower figure on the dyno. I reckon, using my arse dyno, this car is creating definitely 90, possibly my ultimate goal of 100. I can't be sure, but Yuki is quick. There is one area that I think I've let Yuki down in, and it's tyres. I know that is super important. I've dropped the ball on it, especially for a lap time. I said I was going to put new rubber on him, but with all the other work going on, other stuff on the Jag, the Subaru, I've just not got round to it. So I mean, the tyres on it, they're in good condition, but I have absolutely no idea what the brand is. I've never heard of them before. And he's starting to move around already. Oh no! I really hope those tyres last a decent amount of laps so we can get a good time in. Otherwise, Yuki's going to start moving around a lot on whatever that tread is. I'm sorry. The question is it enough? Have we upped Yuki's game to a point where he can defeat the dominant entry-level sports car? Well, that is why these are here. What we have here are two completely stock MX-5s, a 1.6 and a 1.8, so that means 90 horsepower and 130 horsepower. These cars have not been coilovered, they've not been big braked, there's no supercharger or turbo in sight. With that in mind, I think we'll have the 1.6, but the 1.8 is gonna take some beating. But let's cut the crap, we need an unbiased professional racing driver to set some laps. Abby asked for a total of 5 laps in each car. A first couple to get used to the car, and then 3 timed attempts. First came the 1.6.
3, 2, 1, go!
That 1.6 is looking faster than I thought. And it's handling much better. My Mark II was a 1.6 and it didn't handle like that. I think he's done me over here. Has he got new suspension on that thing? After 5 laps, Abby's fastest time was a 58.6. Then came the 1.8.
3, 2, 1, go!
Weirdly, the 1.8, obviously it looks fast on the straights, but through the corners, that is what I thought 20-year-old, 25-year-old MX-5 suspension would look like. That's much more wallowy. This could be tight between the 1.6 and the 1.8. Despite its classically wallowy suspension, the 1.8's power took it to a 57.9, 0.7 quicker than the 1.6. It was then time for Yuki to step up to the plate. Abby, welcome to Yuki. You seem to fit quite nice. I was worried actually with your helmet you might need to take the roof off, but you're okay in there, right?
It's quite spacious, yeah.
So he's a little 0.6 litre K car, so the MX-5s are big brutes compared to him, but I'm hoping with your MX-5 roots, you know, that small vehicle drive sports car, you're going to be the one to set a good time in this. Does it feel good?
It's actually really comfortable and surprisingly spacious considering how it looks externally, and I can touch the door. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, you should have good brakes, really pointy suspension, good suspension, boost compared to the MX-5s.
Yeah.
So
Tyres?
yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I missed. I've never seen that brand before.
Excellent.
You know, I mean, tyres are super important. I don't know how I dropped the ball on that, but hopefully everything else is good enough that it doesn't matter. So good luck, do your best. I know you've actually got an MX-5 bias, so maybe I chose the wrong racing driver, but good luck, do your best.
Go. Let's go.
Abby, in 3, 2, 1, go! Listen to that little turbo! Yes, now that is what I wanted to see. Abby darted Yuki into that chicane there. Very nice. Okay, I reckon he handles even better than the 1.6. The question is, does he have the pace down the straights? The 1.6 is 90 horsepower, I reckon we're about that, but with boost. Oh, Abby's, she's absolutely fired it through the pith path down there. That was quick, that was quicker than both the Mazdas. Will that be enough? Here she comes. Come on, Abby, come on, Yuki! Yes! 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 Abby, that was some cracking driving. Thank you for coming along. Would you like to know the times?
Go on.
So, 1.6 was 58.6.
Yep.
1.8 was 57.9.
Still fairly close.
Little Yuki was 57.9.
Wow.
So it matched the Goliath 1.8 and took out the 1.6. How did they all feel? Give us the debrief.
So jumping straight out in the red one, the 1.6,
yeah,
it felt a lot kind of almost a bit race car like. It was quite stiff, which was I think surprising considering the age of the car. But the brakes were not the best.
Sure.
That's what let it down. And as soon as I jumped into the 1.8, you could obviously feel that extra bit of power, but then there was quite a lot of kind of wallowiness and body roll. And then jumping into this, it was kind of a combo of the two. It had the kind of power, and it was very darty, like you could get it to a point where you want it to be quite easily. And the brakes were also good. The one thing again on this that kind of surprisingly actually let it down, considering, was it actually ended up leaning over on itself and sitting on the tyre through some of the last faster loaded corners.
Maybe our ride height, we're a bit too low.
Yep, ride height maybe needs a little bit of adjustment, but I knew from the first lap it was going to be pretty close between this one and the 1.8.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed driving all of them, to be quite honest with you. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they are all awesome cars. Just on that, the 1.6, I have chatted to the owner, and it's not uprated suspension, but he has put new MX-5 suspension on it.
You can feel it.
Well, you could see it. I was worried. It was flat going round, and I thought, that's not a 25-year-old MX-5 suspension going there.
As soon as I jumped into the 1.8, I thought, this is a little bit more of what I expected. But
exactly.
Yeah, that little 1.6 is dark horse, for sure.
Okay, well, I'm super proud of little Yuki, and the next time we have any track testing to do, I'll definitely give you a shout.
Sounds good.
Thank you for allowing me to win. Well, you won.
It was the biscuits.
I won more.
Let's be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't get the caramel digestives this time.
Caramel digestives, and this would have won by a second.
Shit. I am so proud of this car. The mission was to make it faster than an MX-5, and we did it. The 0.6 litre turbo car outdid a 1.6 MX-5, and I can't believe it was on par with the 1.8. The question is, now, what should we do with him? There's part of me that says we should draw a line under this project, sell the car, possibly to one of you guys that have liked it, and put that money into our V10 MX-5 project. But if you guys can think of some other cool stuff that we should do with Yuki, tell me in the comments below, and I'll definitely give them a read. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to DRIVETRIBE.